Don't believe the hype, the good, the bad, the ugly of fantasy sports. I'm Maurice.
I'm Marcus.
All right. Marcus, I don't know about you, but if you're a sports fan, this week alone is like Christmas for you, you know?
Yeah, it's a lot going on.
A lot going on this week. NBA premiered this week, yesterday actually. World Series is right around the corner. You got Dodgers and Cubs playing tonight, two-story franchises. And then, of course, you got Thursday Night Football, you know what we live for. We got Kansas City Chiefs against the Oakland, the LA, Vegas Raiders.
The Oakland, Vegas, Angeles Raiders.
But more importantly, LeVar Ball makes his NBA debut, right? I mean, yeah. his son's going to play too, right? But
right. But Pappy will be courtside cheering on Lonzo.
Right.
And Patrick Beverly should, if he should touch Lonzo, even with the least aggression, I'm sure we'll see LeVar. They'll have a camera on LeVar all game long. I'm pretty sure of it.
Yeah, agreed. So everything that's going on tonight, if you could only watch one thing tonight, NBA, football, baseball, what are you watching?
That's a good one. Okay, the fan in me says my boys, the Raiders. But the realist in me, the person who wants to see a good storyline play out would have to be Melo against the Knicks. Hoodie Melo against the Knicks.
Yeah, I think that's going to be a good game. And I say it like this. If there's one game where OKC will give Melo the green light,
it's this game.
Exactly. It's this game. But you know what? I was kind of thinking about it, how ironic it is that opening night, Tuesday night and then tonight, both had big revenge games. You had Kyrie coming back to Cleveland, taking the L to the LeBron Cavaliers, and now you got Melo doing the same thing. Except he's with OKC. So I'm definitely interested in seeing that game tonight. If I had my pick, I'm gonna go with basketball. We've been waiting a long time. We haven't really spent too much time talking about basketball. Last night I was really excited. You got to see some really good rookies play. Dennis Smith Jr. But Ben Simmons, I was really impressed. Ben Simmons, he looked like the Greek Freak Part 2. I think he's going to be a really good pro. In Philly, it didn't look like it about 2 years ago, but Philly is actually moving in the right direction. And I don't want to say playoffs, but they are definitely a good team in the East this year.
I'll say it. They'll make the playoffs. They'll probably be like a 7 or an 8. It's just about finding ways like yesterday's game to I guess eke out a win against playoff caliber teams. They were in that game the whole game. Right. I think they were up by double digits at one point. They got it to 10. And Simmons being close to 7 feet tall playing point, that's a nightmare. You got Embiid, the process. He had a great game yesterday. But in the end, the Wizards, they've been there, they've done that. So they found a way to win. If the Sixers can at least get close to 40 wins between the 38 to 41 win window, I like them to actually be in the playoffs.
I'm with you on that. And then also, once they actually start playing regular minutes, Joel Embiid, like you said, he's only playing 20, 25 minutes. Once that whole team gets, once they're playing that full team, yeah, it's a good team to watch. But I'll tell you like this. Let's talk about what we really came to get down to, and that's football, man.
That's right.
Before we talk about week 7, man, we got to talk about some of these injuries. Week 1, David Johnson essentially for the year, but I think he's out for the year. Then Odell Beckham, Now you got Aaron Rodgers. So how do if you were a team that was unfortunately enough to have one or maybe even two of those guys, how do you?
It's tough to kind of, at this point in time, play the waiver wire game. If I know one of my teams, I have Devontae Adams, so I'm sure his production will probably drop off. Even though Jordy is the high target, heavy volume guy, and Devontae Adams is like the red zone threat. So in that standpoint, if you have a Jordy, if you have a Randall Cobb, a Ty Montgomery, if you have any of the weapons that Green Bay possesses on your team, you will take a hit production-wise because Aaron Rodgers took Brett Hundley or Joe Callahan or whoever they decide to line up under center. It's definitely going to be a drop-off. So it's extremely tough. I mean, unless you're Adrian Peterson who goes into a situation like Arizona, considering that David Johnson will be back, but you're able to take advantage of the opportunity and able to take advantage of the carries in that situation, you can succeed with your fantasy team if you play it right.
That's true. I mean, you have to live and die by the waiver wire. I mean, those are three big injuries. I mean, and like you said, fortunate enough for the Cardinals that if you had, if you had a decent waiver claim, or if you were one of the people that drafted AP from when he was with the Saints,
right?
You got then you got a chance and you made out. You kind of lucked up. Now, Of course, I'm not expecting 130 yards and 2 touchdowns every week,
right?
But I still feel like Adrian Peterson has some gas left in that tank, and you'll see some good games from him that can help carry you, until either David Johnson comes back or, the rest of your team just kind of, gets itself together.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing what a run game did for Arizona last week. They had 0 run game after the David Johnson injury. They tried Ellington, they tried Kerwin Williams, they tried Chris Johnson, and nobody could run the ball. And here comes Adrian Peterson, and he has 2 touchdowns and 130 yards, just like that. And it made everybody on that team look better. It made Carson Palmer look better. It made their O-line look better. It made Fitz look better. They all had good games. So you get you a run game. That's amazing. And the irony in all this is once New Orleans traded away Adrian Peterson, they gave the ball to Mark Ingram, and he had 21 carries, 22 carries, 115 yards, 2 scores.
Yeah. Yeah. So that one move, it was like a domino effect. It affected, you kind of got 2 RB 20 backs just from that one move. So definitely a good move. But for, looking at this week, week 7, I'm gonna go out on a limb this weekend and tell you a couple of guys that I like. I'm back on the Tyrod Taylor bandwagon. This week only, going against Tampa Bay, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Right.
So we know Tampa Bay's defense is not good at all, and they already have some people that are banged up. So I feel like with that Swiss cheese defense, Tyrod Taylor is good enough. And again, he's cheap. I mean, on FanDuel and DraftKings, he's pretty cheap. I mean, it's like him and then it's Jimmy Garoppolo, and Jimmy Garoppolo is not even playing.
Right.
But I'm going to actually pair him with Nick O'Leary. So everyone, if you've been keeping up, Charles Clay has been the number 1 wide receiver or number 1 pass catcher, so to speak, down in Buffalo. He's out for the next few weeks. Jordan Matthews has a small chance to play, and even if he does, honestly, he hasn't built any kind of rhythm with Tyrod Taylor. Leary came in right off of the bench and caught 5 passes, so he has to throw to somebody, and I really like pairing him and maybe even using him to pivot off of some of the big guys like Gronkowski and, dare I say, Austin Seferian-Jenkins, who I've been telling anyone that listened for the last couple of weeks, but I'm actually going to probably go with O'Leary. He gives you an opportunity to spend that money elsewhere.
I'm going to go with Marcus Mariota against Cleveland. Exploited the weak defense. Deshaun Watson, 3 touchdowns, 225 yards passing. The biggest question going into the Monday night game last week was Mariota and ability to run. He couldn't run because his hamstring was injured. And he was forced to stand back there and throw the ball. And it took a while, but in that fourth quarter, he put it together. And through, I believe it was 3 touchdown passes. So more than likely, the hamstring isn't fully healed. He'll probably be limited running again, and he'll be forced to stand back there and throw. And that's what you want when you try to determine which quarterback you're going to start. You just want one who's going to throw the ball all around the field. Now, given the fact that DeMarco Murray may not – it's iffy right now if he'll play.
Right.
They may heavily rely on Derrick Henry, who's up to it. So if you're in the need of a running back, you also go Derrick Henry as well. But from the standpoint of quarterback play, I do like Mariota in that spot. As long as the O-line can keep him upright and force him – well, not force him, but keep him upright and not have him, in situations where he's got to get rid of the ball, he's got to run, he's got to slide, to avoid contact. If he can stand back there and pick that secondary apart, I like Mariota this week.
I can see that. And if we're going to look at some of the wide receivers, I'm looking at some target monsters personally. Last week, Monday Night Football, you saw Demaryius Thomas erupt. Now, again, partly had to do with Emmanuel Sanders being out, but this partly just had to do with the game flow.
Uh-huh.
So I like him this week. I like him a lot. He's actually my top play this week at wide receiver. And again, I'm targeting the wide receivers that get a lot of targets, but also the receiver on the opposite end is probably not playing. So Thomas, Adam Thielen, if Diggs doesn't play, definitely, even against a tough Ravens secondary. And then, of course, Jarvis Landry. And honestly, it doesn't matter if Jay Cutler's throwing the ball, Matt Moore's throwing the ball, or Dan Marino's throwing the ball.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to catch 8. He has the opportunity to catch 8 or 9 balls. And in the PPR format, those 3 guys could really be the difference between you finishing, middle of the pack, and finishing in the top 5. So I like those guys. And then I'm going with a sneaky defense this week. So I think a lot of people are going to be on the Seahawks. They're one of the highest priced defenses, and they're going against the New York Giants. I'm actually going to reverse that. I'm going to pick the Giants as my top defense, partly because Seattle they don't have offensive line. We know that, right? But then also the Giants defense, like Giants has playmakers on every level of the ball. They just haven't been able to put it together. You saw Monday night when they played against Denver that, okay, this is what the defense can do. And then they're going against a team that doesn't have a good offensive line, and you have JPP, and you have Olivia Ryan, and just some of the other guys that they have. And then even with that secondary that can help neutralize a Doug Baldwin and some of the Paul Richardson and the guys that they have. So I'm going with the Giants. I think they can get double-figure points easily. And again, those kind of picks allow you to have a little more money to play around with at running back potentially.
Right. It's amazing what the Giants defense was able to do to the Denver offense, considering all the issues they were having surrounding Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie. And I was under the impression that, the way that they stuck up for DRC and not sticking up for the coach, I was like, I wouldn't be surprised if they go to Denver and they just lay down and let Trevor Siemian and Demaryius and Emmanuel and CJ Anderson do what they want. Right. But the fact that they rebounded and they shut down Siemian. They let Demaryius Thomas get 10 for 133. But, it was like that bend but don't break.
Right, exactly.
And they made plays on the ball, and Janoris Jenkins housed a Trevor Siemian pick for 6. So I do like that pick for you. My thing is Jacksonville's playing Indy. And, Brissett, he ain't Andrew Luck. He ain't Johnny U. He ain't Peyton. So,
right.
I mean, Jacksonville's aggressive in that secondary. They get sacks. Calais Campbell is a sack master. The linebacking play is incredible right now. So I like Jacksonville. I like Jacksonville defensively. My wide receivers, I like Dez against San Francisco. And I like Fitz against the Rams. Okay. I feel like that game's probably going to be high scoring. I would hope it's high scoring. My thing is adjusting to London because those two will be in London. Or that game will be in London. So it's all about both teams adjusting to playing in London and the time difference and things like that. But if they are able to, I do like Arizona and Los Angeles to be a sneaky high scoring play because the Rams defense is so, you know.
That's a good point too. I mean, because you mentioned, you know, those are two good fantasy football teams where, like you said, you got to remember they're playing in London. And for some reason, the Thursday night games and also the London games, sometimes you get a lopsided performance. So if you are playing those guys, make sure that you're paying attention to see like, okay, hey, how's practice going? You know, how, you know, if it's a worthy play. But I like those picks too. I like those picks.
Definitely don't want a repeat of the Baltimore-Jacksonville game where Jacksonville was adjusted to the time difference, playing there so often, and the Ravens just couldn't get going at all.
Yeah, I don't know what happened with that game. You know, there were a lot of Ravens fans that were mad about that game, and rightfully so. So hopefully the Cardinals, Adrian Peterson in particular, and Larry Fitzgerald, and then you know, Todd Gurley, you know, some of those guys are at least ready to play.
Right. Also, New Orleans and Green Bay, you know, I'm not sure exactly what Green Bay Packer team will get, but I do know that the Saints are pretty good offensively. There is a slight drop-off versus them playing in the dome, versus them being on the road. But New Orleans looked pretty good against Carolina on the road. And I see no change. I like most of those guys. I like Breeze. I like Ingram, Kamara, Mike Thomas, Ted Ginn. You know, the Packers defense isn't exactly, you know, setting the world on fire.
Right, exactly.
So, exactly. Yeah, I like Breeze to pick them apart.
Right. And honestly, had this game happened last week, you know, prior to the Aaron Rodgers injury, this would be probably the game of the week. You know, shootout, two bad defenses, so you could, you know, potentially a lot of points being scored. It's going to change slightly. It's going to change for the Packers. Like you said, New Orleans, they're going to still score their points. But I do think because they will potentially get ahead, that means that Mark Ingram could have another big game because once they get up 2 touchdowns, which they easily could, I don't think Brett Hundley is equipped to. I mean, again, he was a good quarterback at UCLA, but it's different. And you again, you've been holding the clipboard for the last 3 or 4 years,
right?
So it's going to take him time to really get caught up with that offense. And guys like Jordy Nelson, you know, Adams, and Montgomery, those guys are going to feel the pinch the most. So yeah, so that's another thing too. You know, guys that are looking at the game, be cautious of the game. Make sure you're looking, you know, really looking into the numbers and not just looking at the teams that are playing.
Right. Yeah. Good points.
Anything else you want to add this week?
Other than go Raiders.
Go Raiders. Okay, well, yeah. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna go ahead and let Marcus watch KC beat the Raiders 31-14.
Yeah, don't do that, man. It's a nice bounce back game tonight.
All right, not 31-14, 28-7.
Yikes! Jeez, I mean, you do know Derek Carr is back, so you know that gives us a bit of a.
He's back. No pun intended, right? He's back, right? Right. Okay.
Still playing through that broken back.
Yeah. That's amazing.
All right.
He's way better than his brother ever could have been. I mean, sorry, but It's true.
Yeah, right.
But again, on that note, again, this is Don't Believe the Hype. I'm Maurice.
I'm Marcus.
We'll see you next time.
Good luck, everyone.